All right, so this first journal for today was I had 8 crayons in my box, but I lost 2. How many do I have now? And for this journal prep, I did not give my students really any guidance. And I almost told them this was a math challenge and they were going to be using their math brains and grow their math brains to try and solve this. But I just read it through for them. I read it through a couple times and really made sure they knew how many crayons did we start with, how many did we lose. And my challenge was to them to illustrate this somehow, how to draw a picture of the story I just told them. And we've talked a lot this year with our math journals about how in math the answer is the most important and getting the number correct is the most important. The picture is not so much important. They do not have to draw world's best box of crayons or world's neatest pencil drawing of something. They can use dots, tally marks, hyphens, pictures, scribbles, whatever they want, as long as they're illustrating the correct number. So a lot of my students answered similar to this first one, where the child here just knew the answer. They knew that they had 8, they lost 2, the answer 6, and they chose to illustrate it in 4 different ways. They used crayon box and the tally marks there and dots and the number 6. And this is something we've practiced a lot before about how many different ways can we represent the answer. And again, we have not at this point introduced subtraction or what really takeaway means or how to illustrate it or anything like that. Today was kind of an intro challenge just to see how they could use their brains and their knowledge of how to represent answers to create an illustration of this problem. This next student kind of had the beginnings of what you can see, how he was understanding some subtraction, but couldn't quite illustrate the actual action of losing 2, but he knew the answer was 6. So he had drawn 8 and split them up with the dot in between. So this was one of those moments where he was kind of working and got confused, and I got to go over and clarify for him and say, look, you ended up drawing the correct answer. How many crayons are here on the other side? And he counted it out, and you can kind of see his confidence grow, and he was like, there's 6 left. So this was kind of his experimentation into this, which is one of the reasons I love math journals. They can kind of test out and see how many different ways they can represent the answers in their brains. This one I love too. She did something very similar where she drew her 8 out and then she drew a line to separate the 2 she lost and the 6 she had left. So again, how I would grow her in this math journal process is to teach her, okay, you need to highlight the answer more than the problem. Because looking at this journal, can we tell easily that there's 6 left? No. But can I see her thinking in that problem? Absolutely. Now this friend started to get a little bit more detailed in his picture and actually showed that 2 crayons were lost. Instead of drawing 8 total, he knew the answer was 6, so he draws 6 left in the box and 2 that were lost on the side of the box, which I love because, again, he's illustrating the answer but also trying to illustrate the problem. So these next ones kind of show how a couple of my nuggets kind of had more of a deeper math understanding than just let's put the answer down as many ways as we can, but let's actually show this problem. This one I love too, because you can see in her picture shot how she originally drew 8 crayons in her box, and then she erased 2 and drew those 2 down at the bottom, like they were lost out of the box. And you can see how she kind of experimented with writing some numbers and drawing pictures around it, but you can really see her thinking in this because she actually actively erased 2, which again, when we get more in-depth into subtraction, we will talk about how to put X's over numbers or actively take away items from an original set. But in this one, she was kind of already experimenting with that on her own, which makes me very excited. And this friend actually, I know you can't tell from the picture, but this is one of my friends that struggles the most with literacy and phonics and other things. And he absolutely did this on his own and shown. And he did what we will eventually go to teach is how to show takeaway in a problem, where he drew all 8, he put an X over 2 and wrote the answer. So the answer is not 8, there are 6 left. He didn't have to illustrate a whole story, but he illustrated the problem very clearly. There were 8, take away 2, there's 6 left. And on his own completely, this surprised the goodness out of me this morning and I loved it. Now this friend, these next 2 are 2 of my rather bright math kids, and you can kind of see how they're thinking. Now he even went as far as to try and start writing an equation, and you can see how he doesn't really know the symbols, how he doesn't really know what order they need to go in, but he was trying, and he's clearly seen some equations before, but did his illustrated picture down the bottom with his 8 crayons minus 2 crayons, wrote his answer, even tried to write the 2 groups in tally marks. but then also tried to add that equation. So he's really stretching his brain, and these journals give these kids such a chance to not just do one, not just learn how to answer it in one way, but really try, really do another way. And I challenge them so much. I never give them answers. This is them figuring this out on their own, and then getting to see their friends and see how many different ways their friends did it, and try and challenge themselves to grow like that. We've talked a lot about how this is not trying to highlight the smart kids in the class and highlight the kids that don't understand. No, we're all trying to grow together in how we can do this better. And by highlighting a couple key notebooks each time and a couple key journals of, oh, I love how the student did this and I love how the student did this, they're getting to see as many different ways of thinking as they possibly can, and they want to try those in their next experiment. And this one right here, this is one of my absolute math whizzes. Like, he came in knowing everything, but this just made me laugh because you can see up at the top, he drew his 6 at the bottom and the hand at the top actually taking the 2 away. And so he not only illustrated the story, but he also nailed the equation. So I can tell just from this student alone, he's ready. He knows subtraction. He can move on to the next thing. He's got the concept and the equation. So I'm able very quickly too in these math journals to kind of get a gauge of like a formative assessment of who understands the concept, who already knows the concept, who really needs some help with it, who can't get the answer. And there were a couple students that needed that balance, but hopefully this is just a good example of how broad these journals can show you your students' thinking, their engagement in math, how they have to really kind of analyze a problem and solve a problem. And it's not just rote memorization of here's subtraction, here's how you answer the problem, here's the one way to represent it, and right or wrong. But there are so many different ways. And we did take a gallery walk after this, and they got to go look at everybody's answers, and there's always friends pulling friends over, come look at mine, and they were very, very proud of their work. So they absolutely love these journals, and I love getting to see what they can do.